Chapter 553 to 554. Back to the battlefield. After figuring out that the two vague things trying to attack him are limbo clones, Yama frowned slightly. Not because he was afraid, but because he understood that limbo border is a very tricky dojutsu. In the canon, Uchiha Madara was not only able to easily defeat all the 9 Biju at the same time with just one limbo clone, but he was also able to nearly kill EMS Uchiha Sasuke as if merely playing around. The disparity that just one limbo clone of Madara brought to the Shinobi Alliance was too much, and he was totally unstoppable by any means, and Rikudo Sennin had to come out in person to help bring Sasuke and Naruto back to life and give them his own chakra to level up the strength disparity. In fact, even after Sasuke and Naruto obtained the 6-path yin and yang chakra, they were still vulnerable to the limbo clones and couldn't gain any advantage over Madara. Although Sasuke could see the limbo clones with his 6-tomo rinnegan, he was unable to attack them, as normal physical attacks are completely useless on the limbo clones, while even though Naruto was able to sense them and had the means to attack the limbo clones because of having mastered the 6-path senjutsu, his strength was not strong enough to be able to kill them. Obviously, the current Nagato's limbo clones are not as strong as the limbo clones used by the Jubi Madara, as can be seen from the fact that one of them turned into dust upon being attacked by Yama's Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion. They are still very difficult to be dealt with, and have sufficient power to be able to hurt Yama if they use their numerical advantage against him. While Yama was pondering how to deal with Nagato's limbo clones, a spiral whirl appeared out of thin air and created a big hole in the spherical shell that was protecting Yama from Nagato's limbo clones. The moment Yama discovered the hole in the spherical shell made up of truth-seeking orbs, he can't help but curse inwardly, "Damn it, Obito, did you really have to interfere at this time?" Although annoyed, Yama wasn't slow to act and immediately reformed the truth-seeking orb that was used to create the spherical shell into 2 rods. Although truth-seeking orbs are invulnerable to almost all kinds of attacks, thus creating perfect defense below the 6-path level, space-time, especially the ones like Kamui that literally tear a gap in space, can still bypass that defense. And knowing that Madara has also joined this side of the battle, passive defense against Nagato and his limbo clones is no longer meaningful. So Yama can only go with the offense after all. As they say, the best defense is a good offense, and Yama certainly intends to follow this saying. Immediately after getting out of the defense of truth-seeking orbs, Yama flew to a higher altitude, where Nagato or his limbo clones won't be able to attack him immediately, then used an extremely powerful Bansho Tenin on Madara. Instantly, an extremely powerful attractive force acted on Madara, who was hidden and trying to help Nagato, then dragged him all the way towards Yama. While Madara was being attracted towards him under the control of Bansho Tenin, Yama transformed one of the truth-seeking orbs floating behind him into dozens of black chakra receivers, then infused his Tenseigan chakra into them and threw them towards Madara while muttering, "Now let me Obito, can you still use Izanagi to cheat death with black receivers disturbing your chakra?" The black receivers were extremely fast, and instantly several of them pierced through incoming Madara's body. Yama made sure to avoid piercing Madara's vital organs, as his target was not to kill Madara, but to stop his interference in the battle, for a very good reason, of course. Zetsu, who has been hiding all this while, saw this and realized that it was not good. Normally, killing Madara is not that big of a problem for him, because Madara can use Izanagi to change that reality, but with black receivers piercing his body, his chakra will be disrupted, and he will not even be able to move, much less using Kamui or Izanagi, so Zetsu could no longer stay still and had to make a move in order to protect Madara from dying and getting his eyes poached. As Yama continued to drag Madara towards him, suddenly countless tree branches that could absorb chakra broke out of the ground and tried to bind Yama. Now someone has started to think that even these weak tree branches can stop me? Yama chuckled lightly in disdain, all while changing the shape of another truth-seeking orb floating behind him into that of a rod, then used that rod to cut all those tree branches. But of course Zetsu wasn't going to give up so easily, and the tree branches continued to come towards Yama. Although those tree branches weren't really threatening to him, having to continue to cut them repeatedly was still a bit annoying for Yama. And as if that wasn't enough already, even Nagato's limbo clones used the growing tree branches as a foothold and attacked him from the two sides. With the interference of Nagato's limbo clones, Yama had to stop using Bansho Tenin on Madara. POV change. The moment Yama stopped Bansho Tenin on Madara to fight against Nagato's limbo clones, the original Nagato suddenly appeared beside Madara, as if teleporting, then removed all the chakra receivers piercing him. Since Nagato can also create chakra receivers using because of his rinnegan, therefore he is able to touch the chakra receivers piercing Madara without his chakra getting disrupted. Seeing Nagato helping him, Madara said sarcastically, "I did not expect that you would go out of your way to help me." Nagato didn't care about Madara's sarcastic tone and said indifferently, "You are part of the Akatsuki, and this time I did it to repay the favor of saving Tendo, that's all." Madara was silent upon hearing Nagato's answer. Then as he got up again, he said to Nagato, "Still though, Yama is really strong, like really, really strong. Can you defeat him? Because if you can't, then our plan of capturing all the 9 Bijou in order to revive Jubi will become very difficult in the future." Nagato nodded lightly, then said, "I will defeat him, for sure. But if I can't, I will at least be able to keep all his attention on me. You can use that opportunity to try removing his head off his body using that space-time jutsu of yours." Madara nodded lightly with Nagato's so-called plan and disappeared into a spiral whirl in order to wait for the so-called opportunity to appear. With Madara gone, Nagato again got ready to fight Yama, and seeing Nagato getting ready to fight him, Zetsu also stopped his almost useless harassment and hid away. POV change. On Yama's side. So he managed to get rid of them with Nagato's help. Yama clicked his tongue in annoyance as he dodged yet another attack from Nagato's limbo clones. Of course, Yama made sure to keep a track of Madara on the battlefield to avoid getting his body suddenly getting cut off because of Kamui, then focused his attention back on Nagato's limbo clones. If I want to kill Nagato's limbo clones, I will need to use Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. Just using truth-seeking orbs wouldn't be enough to kill them in one shot. But even if I kill them, Nagato will be able to recreate them after some time. I don't know exactly how long it will take for him to recreate them, but he will be able to do so. And I am not sure if I will be able to kill Nagato in less than that time. So, to deal with Nagato, I will need to use a sealing jutsu on the clones. The sealing jutsu would bind the limbo clones' movements for the duration of the battle. Of course, while sealing the movements of Nagato's limbo clones, I have to make sure to do it in such a manner that Nagato won't be able to swap positions with his limbo clone in the middle of the battle, as he did the last time. To do so, I think using a truth-seeking orb infused with Tenseigan chakra as the core would be the best choice, as the moment Nagato chooses to swap position with his sealed limbo clone, he will come in direct contact with truth-seeking orb and immediately disintegrate. Then for the seal, I will add a curse seal that I created after observing Shukaku's natural curse seal markings. This should be enough to keep the limbo clone sealed. After having understood the exact jutsu that Nagato is using, Yama would obviously not be as restrained as before. So although he was still facing 2 limbo clones, his face under the mask remained unchanged, and he continued to make preparations while waiting for an opportunity to show up which he would be able to use to seal Nagato's limbo clones. Now's the time. Now's the time. It didn't take very long for the opportunity Yama was waiting for to appear, and the moment it did, Yama had also completed the preparations and violently threw 2 platinum spears towards the 2 limbo clones of Nagato. Platinum wheel reincarnation explosion. Wish, wish. Accompanied by the whistling sound of cutting through the wind, the 2 platinum spears covered the distance gap and approached the 2 limbo clones in less than an instant. The speed of the 2 platinum spears was as fast as light, and Nagato's limbo clones had no opportunity to react to their sudden appearance. As a result, they couldn't dodge this attack that pierced through their bodies, unhindered by the difference of space and dimension. The moment the 2 platinum spears came into contact with the 2 limbo clones, the cursed seal took effect, which made the clone's movements suddenly come to a stop. And the momentum that the two platinum spears carried didn't stop just there. After piercing through their bodies, they continued ahead for several hundred meters and effectively nailed the two clones on two different rock protrusions in such a manner that no matter what, they could no longer play any role in the ongoing battle, neither active nor passive. The two clones were shocked by the sudden turn of events and struggled in order to break free, but no matter how hard they tried, the silver spears formed upon infusion of Tenseigan chakra and the addition of an extremely powerful cursed seal to the truth-seeking orbs didn't even budge a nano-inch. Upon seeing his approach being successful, Kuroto under the Yama mask smiled slightly while nodding in appreciation, then focused his attention on the next target while tapping a black spear on his shoulder. Whoosh! Then, without waiting for the other party to react, Yama's body suddenly disappeared from his position and directly rushed towards Nagato's main body. As far as Yama understands the Dojutsu Limbo Border Jail, the maximum number of Limbo clones that Nagato can make at a time should be no more than 4. After all, Uchiha Madara could only make 4 Limbo clones with 2 rinnegan, so there is simply no way Nagato would be able to make any more than Uchiha Madara could. Since this part is clear, then the next part should be easier to understand. Of the 4, Yama had already killed 1 Limbo clone with his Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion, and at this moment, he has sealed the other 2 Limbo clones using Platinum Wheel reincarnation explosion. Going by simple mathematics, Nagato should have only 1 Limbo clone remaining, and Yama intends to seal that Limbo clone too. With such intention, Yama rushed towards the original Nagato at an extremely fast speed, all while making preparations to again use Silver Wheel reincarnation. Explosion! In the blink of an eye, Yama, who had turned into a cyan blue streamer, appeared in front of Nagato's main body, and without a shred of hesitation, he stabbed Nagato with the black spear in his hand. Seeing the black spear approaching him, Nagato, who knew the threat of these black things, had no other option but to change position with his last Limbo clone. Swish! With a swish, the Nagato in front of Yama suddenly disappeared and exchanged position with a fuzzy thing, which is his last Limbo clone. Yama, who was prepared for such a thing to happen, wasn't surprised by such a sudden change. In fact, it can be said that this was his primary objective, so he did not stop his movement. The black spear in Yama's hand pierced yet another Limbo clone, and at the moment of contact with the clone, the black spear transformed into a platinum spear. The platinum spear perfectly played the expected role and completely sealed the movements of Nagato's last Limbo clone by nailing it to the ground. And that's the 4th one, muttered Yama with an inward sigh. Now then, it's time for me to deal with the real Nagato. Hiss, 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 hiss. But he didn't have enough time to care about the real Nagato, as he suddenly heard the sound of countless exploding tags on ignition. Yama frowned as he looked at the ground. Summoning circles? He noticed several summoning circles on the ground, out of which hundreds of thousands of ignited explosion tags were coming out each second. The summoning circles weren't there a moment ago. Did Nagato leave them behind just before disappearing? Or did the Limbo clone print them just before being immobilized? Thought Yama. But it didn't really matter, as the first thing he has to do at this moment is to get away from here. But before he could do so, suddenly tree roots sprouted out of the ground and coiled around his legs. Zetsu again, thought Yama, then shook his head because he saw Nagato in the distance pressing his hand on the ground and injecting his chakra into the ground to stimulate the growth of trees. After understanding this, Yama initially thought of transforming a truth-seeking orb floating behind him into a black long katana in order to cut off all the tree roots, but chose not to do so because of the lack of time and knowing full well that there would be no end to the roots coming towards him. Therefore, rather than a long katana, he transformed the truth-seeking orb into a spherical shell around him, as that would protect him from the explosion of the exploding tags and also prevent all the tree roots from approaching him and sucking out his chakra. But again, the moment the truth-seeking orb was transformed into a spherical shell, something which made Yama grit his teeth happened. Kamui! That's right, Uchiha Fu. Ngobito went and did it again, He used long-range kamui to rip out a large hole in the spherical shell, much to the annoyance of Yama. Damn it! In fact, this time Kamui's real target was Yama's head. But coincidentally enough, the spherical shell made of truth-seeking orb came in between Madara's eyesight and Yama and happened to save Yama from sudden death, much to the annoyance of Madara, which made him curse, "Damn it!" Although very unhappy that his attack failed again, Madara refocused his attention, and knowing that he won't be able to use the sneak attack on Yama again, at least for the time being, so instead of wasting his effort on ripping out Yama's head or body parts, he focused his attention on those black orbs floating behind Yama and repeatedly used Kamui on them, and even managed to transfer 4 of them into the Kamui dimension. And at the same time as Madara transferred the truth-seeking orbs to the Kamui dimension, thus making them inaccessible to Yama, a cubical enchantment barrier suddenly appeared around Yama, cutting off all his escape route by trapping him inside in a vulnerable state to the millions of specially prepared exploding tags and chakra-absorbing tree roots. As all this happened, Yama was taken aback and could only blink his eyes in wonder as he muttered, "Did they plan out such a well-thought-out attack way before, or did they just use these series of attacks in the spur of the moment? Regardless of whichever the case, it seems to be working, and I am totally done for. As in royally screwed." The moment Yama finished his words, the millions of exploding tags inside the cubical enchantment suddenly burst out loudly and kicked off a series of earth-shaking explosions. Boom, 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 explosion. The sound of continuous explosions resounded through the night sky. The intensity and the duration of the explosions shocked the shinobi of the 5 great shinobi villages far away from the battlefield, and the closed state of the cubical enchantment only made the situation worse for Yama, as the energy of each explosion was being confined and triggering a chain reaction that further made it difficult to survive for Yama. In this manner, more than 3 minutes passed, but there were no signs of the explosion stopping, which made Tsunadehime in the distance speechless. The explosions haven't stopped yet. Just how many exploding tags did they use? The calmer Sandaime Hokage wiped the sweat off his temple as he said, "It should probably be around a few million. But that's not the only issue. The numbers of exploding tags aside, the power of each tag is that of a high-tier exploding tags. Creating millions of such exploding tags requires enormous time and resources that even the 5 great shinobi villages can't spare, unless in the time of a war. I wonder how a Akatsuki organization obtained so many of them." Jiraiya again sighed and said, "There's no need to think too much. It can only be the work of Konan. With her Dance of the Shikigami based on origami, she can mass-produce millions of exploding tags with much less time and resources. Moreover, the power of each tag will be that of a high-tier exploding tag." Hearing Jiraiya's words, everyone can't help but sigh more and more. The more you know about the Akatsuki organization, the more you will understand the true depths of their power, which will only make you sink into despair and want to give up. At the same time, on the other side, Madara, Zetsu, and Konan appeared beside Nagato using their unique jutsu. Tobi was still engaged in a battle with Uchiha Shisui, and Homusubi was hidden away to ensure the safety of the 2 Jinchuriki. The 4 people, who are obviously the core of the Akatsuki organization, looked in the direction with slightly nervous and expectant expressions on their faces. This trap was prepared by Nagato after careful consideration, and he used himself as the bait to lure Yama inside it. Almost everything was taken into account to finally kill Yama using more than 100 million exploding tags prepared by Konan. Although Nagato is not certain if this much would be enough to kill Yama, he still hopes to greatly wound the other party in order to make the battle ahead advantageous for him. Therefore, Nagato has high hopes for this trap and is intently waiting to see the result. After a while, the explosion finally stopped, and the cubical enchantment barrier also disappeared. Looking at the smoke that suddenly spread all over the battlefield, White Zetsu asked in an uncomfortable tone, "He should be dead, right?" However, no one answered White Zetsu's question because at this moment, everyone's gazes were focused on the center of the site of the explosion, where the smoke and dust were starting to clear up. As the dust and smoke cleared up, A black sphere floating in the mid-air appeared in the eyes of everyone, and before either of them could react to it, the black sphere opened and changed into a fist-size orb, revealing the unscathed figure of Yama from within. Damn it, how did he still have one of these black orbs with him? I thought that the last 4 of them that were floating behind him were removed by Madara, me. This was the collective thought in the minds of everyone as a huge sense of frustration rushed into the hearts of all the 4 Akatsuki members. Even Nagato was no different. They have exhausted almost all kinds of methods, not only using their numerical advantage against him, but also using well-planned strategies to trap him in order to kill or at the very least injure him. But no matter what approach they use, nothing seems to be working against him. Killing him is one thing. They aren't even able to injure him. Such a thing obviously made the 4 of them deeply frustrated in their hearts. Just when they were frustrated and thinking about what to do next, the 4 of them soon discovered that after coming out of the black sphere, Yama didn't pay attention to them. Instead, looked up into the sky. Although confused, the 4 of them also looked up into the sky only to find an extremely bright light spot in the night. What was strange about this light spot was that it was gradually becoming bigger and brighter with each passing second. Conan frowned. What is that thing? Madara and Zetsu were also a bit confused, as they couldn't immediately understand what exactly that bright spot of light is that is continuously getting bigger and brighter. Only Nagato, who has the rinnegan, realized what that freaking thing is and muttered with a slight stammer, It seems to be a meteorite that is about to fall on our planet." Following Nagato's words, the bright light spot in the distant night sky became more and more clear, and everyone soon realized that the flaming piece of space rock that has started to become visible to the naked eye was approaching the Earth at a speed faster than the escape velocity and would soon strike the Earth's surface, causing massive destruction to the life and property. Yup, I didn't guess wrong. No, we are really royally screwed,